on the set in 3, 2, 1, going live. All right, everybody, welcome to another 20. This is our 20th episode. We should celebrate.
20th episode.
Yeah, the 20th episode.
I thought you were going to say 20th year. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah,
wow,
really? Yeah, we're
20th year.
We're not that forgetful. Of HB Unplugged, I'm Mel Craig.
And I'm Don Ramsey.
And wow, I got a chance to read up and watch a couple of videos of our guest today. And
Ed Laird.
And what an impressive resume. But the ironic part is, for everyone out there watching, Ed and I have a lot in common when it comes to chemistry. And although he's the chemist and I'm the applicator, there's a lot of neutral ground that we could talk about as well. Welcome our guest, Ed Laird, and let's give him a big hand.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, Ed, what Don and I have done is we've created this venue as yet another venue for people to get information. More information, get to know the people of Huntington Beach, the big givers, the community people that are leading and
that make a difference in our community.
Kind of cutting the way for people to. I mean, one of the things that you actually said in one of your interviews that I watched earlier today, you said that, and this was impressive to me. You said that Huntington Beach is on the cutting edge of changing the state of California. Will you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, it has a lot to do with politics and the conservative values that we have here in Huntington Beach. And it's kind of incubated here in Huntington Beach, and the rest of the cities in California looks like they're going to follow us. And, we are a charter city, and that charter city has a few more gratuities or ways of running the city, and it looks like the rest of the state, a lot of people are wanting to change to charter city.
They follow us.
That's correct.
That's really
Huntington Beach has always made an impact. Even since I was a kid, believe me, Huntington Beach has always made an impact.
This kind of thing just never ceases to amaze me anymore, because when I saw that today, I went, wow, I couldn't believe my ears to think that this community that we love so much isn't just Surf City. It's a game-changing city. It's done so many different things and gotten so much recognition globally that I think that's the impact.
Correct. And we've had so many dynamic young people that we've elected in Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach is a farm team now for the rest of the county and the state, because we have Tony Strickland. He ran for Senate, got that. We've got Gracie running for Assembly now. I think we're a farm team for good politics in California.
Michael Gates is
absolutely
going to battle.
He's
for
a star.
Us. Yeah, he's a superstar. Yeah, actually,
it's too bad that we lose him, because we have to kind of start over. But Michael Gates was the true leader here in our city.
I think he brought this whole team, this recent team.
Absolutely,
I think he's the one that brought it all together.
Absolutely.
I was really proud of watching him do that. And I think he said, I think when I look back when he first started this program, I thought it brought back the essence of, can one man make a difference? And he did.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, he really did. He truly did. So again, we're talking about this as a venue to just get more information out to people in Huntington Beach. So why don't we talk a little bit about your family, because you got quite the legacy here in Huntington Beach, starting in Anaheim when you got here. Yeah.
So I did live near Disneyland when we first got here. Everybody, and I came from Michigan, and where I grew up and had my education, and it was a great place to grow up in Michigan back then. But I've been in California now over 60 years, and of course this is my home now, and I wouldn't leave it. And a lot of people, when they get my age, they say, well, we're going to pack up and go someplace else and live a little cheaper. But we have grandchildren here, and my wife won't let that happen.
Yeah, you can't leave the kids.
No, can't leave the grandkids.
Not at all.
Know exactly what that's about.
We're going to live and die here in Huntington Beach.
And you're married how long?
Well, I've been married twice. I was married to Sandy, who passed away of cancer about 25 years ago, and I've been married to Patty now for 23 years.
Wow, unreal. Kids?
Yes, I have 3 sons, and Patty had 2 daughters, and we kind of blended the family together. Typical California blending.
Family of 5, yeah.
But it worked. It worked. My youngest son now runs my paint factory, and Patty's oldest daughter runs my engineering company. So I really lucked out. I can just play most of the time now.
You can show up if you want,
Exactly.
yell a few orders or something like that.
Exactly.
And go home and say, I'm done with that.
I go for lunch.
Oh, yeah, there you go to have lunch.
Yeah.
Laird Coatings.
Yeah, Laird Coatings. Yeah. I mean, let's talk a little bit about the Kiwanis, for example, because you play a big part of the Kiwanis. You know, I've been invited by Cynthia Varnell, John Etheridge. I've been invited to be part of the Kiwanis, and I'm really busy, and I'm not making an excuse, and I really want to be part of a lot, but I've got so much going on in my life, nothing like Don, but I still have a lot going on. I don't have a lot of time to donate towards that. But the more I think about the Kiwanis and what they actually do, in fact, Karen and I, 2 years ago, we got invited by John and Cynthia to play Santa and Mrs. Santa at the Walmart store, and all the kids came up and sat on my lap and gave them a gift and stuff. That was a great time.
Yes.
So Kiwanis is big, and I'd like to have you kind of highlight on that.
Well, I would.
And a lot of people don't know what Kiwanis is.
Actually, it's a service organization started in Michigan many, many years ago, over 100 years ago, and it's just a service to the community. And it used to be an all-men's club, but they opened it to women when the women put their foot down and said, we're going to belong to the organization. But actually, I started a long time ago. I was a guest speaker there, speaking for Peter Green, who was running for city council and mayor of the city. So that was
In Michigan?
No, here
Oh,
in
here.
Huntington
Oh,
Beach.
okay.
Peter Green,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
a lot of years ago. So Peter was running, and he couldn't make the appointment, so I spoke for him. And I had so much fun at the Kiwanis because I had a wife who had cancer, and she was dying at the time. And the HB boys, I don't know if you know Bill Ridenauer or Bill Ellis.
We know the HB boys.
They made it so funny for me. I mean, that was the first chuckle I've had in years. And so at the end of my speech, they were throwing napkins at me. I mean, it was that. They were just having a great time.
Where was this done at? Where?
It used to be up in Bellaterra Shopping Center.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a big room there that they would give us. We've moved it around. It's been in different restaurants or areas. It's now in Bon Gusto.
Yeah, Bon Gusto.
Yeah, right over off of
Bolsa Chica and
Warner, yeah.
Bolsa Chica, yeah. But it's a great organization. I joined immediately because they were so much fun. And actually, Bill Ridenauer at that time, he started the HB Boys right at the same time that they let women into the Kiwanis because he wanted an all-men's club. So the HB Boys is still all men, but the Kiwanis, we do women in now, of course, and they've certainly been beneficial to the club.
Oh,
so the club has about, I'd say, 75 members, and we put on pancake breakfast for the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And we
park our buses right there in the park.
Oh, yeah.
And Karen says, well, we got to make breakfast before they. Oh, no, the Kiwanis has a breakfast. We'll eat when we get there.
Exactly. So we started that back in '96, and it's been going strong. It'll be our 30th year coming up, or 20 or 30 years.
You're forgetting.
Yeah, I am.
We're-
But anyways,
we're all
Kiwanis
there.
has been a big part of my life here in Huntington Beach. I was the president of Kiwanis. That was a great experience. And
that's an annual thing.
yes,
Everybody's for 1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is Sean Wood president?
He
right
was
now?
about
He
a
was?
few years ago, and he became the lieutenant governor for all of Southern California.
Oh, okay.
So he's still very involved. I guess he's involved in the chamber now too.
He is.
He's a bright young man.
Yeah, Sean's a good man, definitely.
Yeah, the chamber gave me a start here in Huntington Beach.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they really did. Yeah, when I came here, Chip Foose actually saw me at SEMA, and we were in a deli line together at SEMA show, and he tapped me on the shoulder. Hey, Chip, how's it going? You need to be in Huntington Beach with us. I go, Chip, I'm not leaving San Diego. I love it too much. You need to be in Huntington Beach, and let me tell you why. It's the car guy. I try to tell people, and I didn't know this until I got here, but there's more hot rods, vintage, and classic cars here in Huntington Beach
Restoration,
per capita
yeah.
than
Absolutely.
any other city in the country.
Totally
Oh,
agree.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
It's one out of every 5 garages has a project car.
Absolutely.
It's just amazing, yeah. So I moved here, but
the chamber got me.
The chamber,
way back
yeah.
when.
Yeah. So I was with Rich Evans for a little while in his shop, and then John Gustafson
Oh yes.
heard my story through Cynthia, and he called me up one day and he says, "Hey, you just got here," and he says, "I understand you're struggling with a building." And I said, John, it's not money or anything. It's just it's hard to find a building that will accommodate a detailing operation and a school. John actually invited me over to his building, in Gotham.
Good man.
And he said, "Hey, Mel, so what is it you do?" And he gave me a whole tour. And then we walked into the back where he has his training, and he does a lot for the high schools and stuff, training as well. And he's really big on training. So we walk into this 8,000 square foot training center. "What do you think of this?" I said, "Well, God, John, this is beautiful. My gosh, this is a detailer's man's dream, or anybody who wants to shop, with a kitchenette and a flat screen TVs, 2 big ones, and whiteboards. I mean, wow, you got it, everything here." And he goes, "Well, how'd you like to have this?" I go, "Oh, John, I can't afford anything like. There's no way I could make this happen." And he told me, he goes, "Look, I'm not looking for money." He said, "I own all this." He says, "I tell you what, how many students do you get?" And he goes, "I'll give you a start." He goes, "You give me 15% of every student you get, and I'll take care of your facility." And that's how I got started in Huntington Beach. And that was all through the chamber and Cynthia Varnell introducing me to people and stuff.
Very good.
And it really gave me a chance to really springboard into, I got a chance to meet that man right there. I wasn't sure about in the beginning stages, thinking of rock and roller. But man, the more I got to know Don, I was like, wow, this guy's a guy you got to know. Same with Rick, and now with you too.
Yeah. Well, the chamber got me early. Joyce Rydell, I don't remember Joyce. I don't sell a thing in Huntington Beach, and I don't have a customer in Huntington Beach because I sell industrial coatings. I manufacture them here in Huntington Beach. But she heard I was coming into town, and she grabbed me, and I was on the board for 35 years, and I never sold one thing in Huntington Beach ever.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, but your business was here.
Yes,
that
that's
means
correct.
everything to the chamber. That means everything to everybody here in Huntington Beach. In addition, you were, this is really another one of my hot buttons. I was a scout.
Oh, wonderful.
And I don't know if Don was a Boy Scout.
I was a Cub Scout.
Cub Scout and Boy Scouts. I did both.
Then I got into surfing and all went to
went down. But scouting, I really enjoyed that, and I understand you and your son actually became a Eagle Scout.
That's correct. Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yes, well, I've been in Boy Scouts. I was a Cub Scouts in Michigan, and actually, when I was working towards Eagle Scout, I discovered the 2 perfumes, Girls and Gasoline, and I didn't make it to Eagle.
I heard that.
I'm a life scout, but I've been in scouting all my life.
Yeah.
And I had 3 sons.
Let me write that one down.
Yeah, the 2 perfumes, gasoline and women. Yeah, I never thought of that. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to use that.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, but anyways, I've been in scouting, and I'm the longest serving member here in Orange County on the board, and I'm on the national board that I represent Orange County with. So I've been in Boy Scouts for a long time.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot of
Yeah,
years.
were you at the event at the old senior center, the Memorial Hall
Yes.
last Friday?
Not last Friday.
Chris
no.
Cole's son made it to
Eagle?
Yeah, Caden made it to Eagle.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't. I was out of town.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I was at the Boy Scout National Meeting down in Florida.
Wow.
So that's why I couldn't make that.
And didn't some location actually it's named Ed? It's named after you now.
Yes.
Which one is that?
Well, that's at the up in Irvine, the camp. We have a camp there that the Irvine Company donated 250 acres to the Boy Scouts, and we developed a camp there. And it was a very expensive camp, but we built it.
I remember that.
And they just, a year ago, they named it after me.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, so I've got a camp named after me. They named a street here in Huntington after me.
I know, look at these.
Yeah.
And now
Legend.
I'll get a tombstone named after me pretty quick.
Let's not hope that doesn't happen too soon. It's funny because I was also a cadet, a Navy cadet, so I really got into the scouting and the cadets and stuff. I really enjoyed it. Kind of tell people, because this is really a big thing. Becoming an Eagle Scout is in fact, I know for the people out there who actually are in scouting and make it to Eagle, that looks really terrific on a job resume.
On a resume, it does.
The presidents
Absolutely.
of companies will look at that and go, "You're an Eagle Scout."
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Same with martial arts. So you obtain a first degree black belt, and people really respect
Absolutely.
Discipline.
the discipline behind both of those. So, what is an Eagle Scout?
Well, an Eagle Scout is a young man that has character and has developed his character through scouting. And there's several ranks you go through. You start as a tenderfoot, and everybody knows that. And then you go through first or second class, first class, Scout, Life, and Eagle. And to attain Eagle, you have to go and actually there's about 150 merit badges, but you only have to achieve 21 of them. Some of them are required, some of them are just voluntarily, but you have to become proficient in an activity with an adult. You have to go to an adult and interact with them on the certain
Adult level?
well, each merit badge you have.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So you have a cooking merit badge. That's not too hard to get, but you have life-saving, you have citizenship in the communities, nation, and so you have to interact with an adult to achieve those. And then once you attain 21 merit badges and do the requirements for that Eagle badge, the last requirement is to do a project for your community. And we see a lot around Huntington Beach of Eagle Scout community. One of them just happened here at the training center for the police dogs. They have a course that they put the dogs through, and it fell in disrepair. So an Eagle Scout rebuilt everything, and it's done as nice as a studio.
Oh, wow. Very good.
So an Eagle Scout has to do a project, and then these projects are actually they have to pass muster, I guess, to get your Eagle Scout badge. And usually the scouting trail, a scout can reach the trail early, but it's around 15 to 17 years old, a boy will be an Eagle Scout, and that'll carry with him the rest of his life.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the reason I bring that up, Laird, is for especially anybody watching this show is today there's so many kids that are behind a computer, you know, sitting on we've all seen families sitting at a restaurant, and they're almost like non-active. I mean,
That's
not just not active at all, they're non-active.
That's true.
And scouting is a great opportunity to get back outside and to get involved in the community and to get involved in other kids, like-minded kids.
I just got back from the national meetings I said earlier, and the biggest concern that they had at that meeting, and a lot of people don't realize it, that suicide among boys is at an all-time high. It's 4 times higher than it was 10 years ago.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And this last year, there were over 400,000 young boys committed suicide. That's more than died in World War II.
Oh, my God.
And
You know that, Don?
We're
No, I
losing
did
that
not
much
know
boys.
that.
And I think you're right. It has to do a lot with just sitting in a corner, just working on the computer. So we got to get them outside.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up, because I thought, wow, you know, people need to realize that there are things that you can introduce your kids to that are safe, safe environment, you know, good instruction, you know, good leadership, and they should be involved in it. I mean, your son's a walking testimonial to that.
Yeah. And right here in Huntington Beach, we have a troop named Troop 1 that meets at the log cabin in Lake Park.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the oldest scout troop in Orange County, and it is probably the best. They turn out more Eagle Scouts than any other troop around.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah.
So we have a premier camping program here in Huntington Beach.
And we'll flash that up on the screen as well, and I'll have Alejandro post that up. It's Troop 1.
Troop 1,
and it's at the log cabin.
Yeah, right there off a lake.
The south end of
Lake
the park.
and 12th.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
south end of
Exactly.
the park. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, fantastic. So when it comes to, you know, your business and what you've done, why don't we kind of highlight on that a little bit? Because, you know, Ed and I got a chance to talk before Don got, and on the chemistry side, when I started listening to how your involvement in the innovation of polymers. In my industry in the 90s, that's when the polymers started to come into our waxes and sealants. And we did see a massive increase in performance for these protective products that we were putting, waxes and sealants mostly. And so I got, you know, I was literally glued to the screen. Rick Brown actually sent me a couple of videos that you got a chance to talk about. So I'd really like to highlight a little bit on that, because we're kind of in the same industry there.
Well, I was educated in Michigan, and I got a chance to come to a job out here in California as a chemist for an aircraft paint company. And the aircraft paint company was probably the premier aircraft paint company. And after about 3 years, I became the chief chemist there, and it was really a great company to work for. But I worked with polymers, and we got the first polyurethane in the United States because it was so expensive, and that you could put it on a plane, but nothing else. And it was taking the place of epoxies at that time, which still holds its
Strong value.
Yeah. And so these polyurethanes, the new chemistry was coming, and I read the label on it. The free TDI would get you if you breathe too much of it or anything. So I was working in a lab one night, and I was spraying panels with this material, and all of a sudden the room started shaking and everything. And so I wandered outside, and the only guy there was the janitor, and I was hanging on to a 55-gallon drum, and I said, Chet, I think I'm fainting. I don't know. He said, Ed, you're not from California. That's an earthquake.
Oh, so your first earthquake.
Yeah, my first earthquake.
So you thought it was you were
first
inhaling
earthquake.
I thought the polyurethane was getting to me.
He's sitting there getting high in the chem lab, and he thinks he's going nuts.
Yeah.
An earthquake, unreal.
So actually, I loved working with polymers, and the owner of the company that I work for, Andrew Brown Company, he said, Mr. Brown said to me, he said, "You love these polymers." He said, "We're getting a lot of calls for coatings for plastics," and he said, "They're a pain in the ass, and would like to shove those off on somebody." He said, "You love polymers so much, why don't you start a company and we'll support you?" So that's how I got started in my own business.
Wow.
And I came to Huntington Beach because the fire department was so, they dealt with the oil rigs here.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Back then, this was 60 years ago. They knew how to handle chemicals, and they welcomed me here. And in fact, when I first came here, there were 6 paint companies that manufactured in Huntington Beach. And I'm the only one left, of course, but because it's so tough, the regulations. But the Huntington Beach Fire Department brought me first here with John Lusk. He developed the industrial park out, the industrial park. So John Lusk
Off of
developed
McFadden over there, yeah.
And he made it possible for me to have a building and buy a building. It was $40 a square foot back then. Which
Oh, God.
Wow.
It's now $400.
Yeah.
So time flies.
Yeah. And, I really want to highlight on this, especially for Don and I, we're entrepreneurs. And, I've been teaching for many years. The state of California is one of the hardest states to be an entrepreneur. And again, watching your shows that Rick had sent me, you really resonated with me, Ed, because, it is difficult. Thank God I'm at where I'm at now, 68 and retiring, like Don and I we're saying goodbye to some of our career. Mm-hmm. But the newest entrepreneur coming up today, what you said, and I try to tell this to the young entrepreneur, don't think you can't lose it all. And it may not be you. It could be a function of the business world that drives you out. And you brought this up about the tax situation and how it really hurt your company.
That's
and hopefully it's okay to
Oh,
discuss
sure.
it,
Yeah.
because this is a good education for anybody in Huntington Beach, especially the young people today that are thinking about, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to own my own company. I want to be a Mel Craig or a Don or a Rick or Mel, whatever. I want to be that. And to be an entrepreneur, I try to prepare the youngsters for what they're up against. And I tell people business isn't easy. If it was, everyone would do it and there wouldn't be any money in it.
Right.
And I'd like to kind of highlight on that as a leader, and an owner of it, because one of the stories you touched on was you created a company that was a family. Mm-hmm. And there's a point in your life where it touched you or hurt you so bad that there was an issue with the company not making ends meet. And eventually the boss, the owner, has to make the hard-nosed decision. We got to let some people go. We got to cut the fat until we get on our feet. That's sort of like what I wanted to highlight.
Well, that was about 2006. All the business was going to China. California was an unfriendly place to do business, and they were trying to drive all the chemical companies out. And frankly, Huntington Beach at that time, they switched to tourism. They didn't want people out there in the industrial section. They wanted warehouses and tourism. When I came to Huntington Beach, they wanted entrepreneurs and people that would start businesses. So in 2006 come along, and that was a real tough year for me. I had 100 employees, and most of my business went to China. It was big enough. I had toy companies that were very large, and they just took their business and picked up one day and were gone. So almost overnight, I had to let 100 employees go, and I couldn't do it. So I actually had a stroke. And
really?
Yeah.
The stress?
Yeah, the stress of it. So
unreal.
But God bless I had a son that very capable. Jeff runs my company today, and he took and he had to let 75 people go. Fortunately, now since we've come back, we've hired a lot of those people back. But we went down to about 24 people, and we were just struggling to stay in business. And once I got back from my stroke, there's a few funny stories I can tell you about. You remember the police officer Corwin Bales from Huntington Beach?
Oh, yeah.
Corwin?
Yeah.
He was a motorcycle cop for a lot of years. Well, he was a pretty nice guy, and when I got done with my stroke, I had to learn to drive. And so I took my car out one night about 11 o'clock, and I'm driving down the street, and he pulled me over. He said, Ed, I saw you had an expired tag, but he said, when you're going right down the middle of the street as your guide, he said you weren't over to the right. And so he decided to pull you over. But he bought me a cup of coffee and didn't give me a ticket. So I love the guy ever since. But my son actually brought our company to where it is today, and it's. I'm just very fortunate to have family involved. We've got a lot of family members, and then I started a engineering company 40 years ago to actually do my own work with the AQMD and with the Department of Health and the EPA, and so I would do all the regulations for chemical companies. So my customers started using my engineering firm, and then the engineering firm became very famous, and we would battle the AQMD and try to hold back a lot of regulations. And then it was successful, and I was able to keep my customers then because I would do the regulation. And we would maximize permits. The real thing, what the AQMD would do is if you started out in a shop and you needed a gallon of paint, they would give you a permit for a gallon of paint. Well, a year later, you're up to 5 gallons. You got to get a new permit. Well, I was known as the guy who would get you a permit for 150 gallons right off the bat. That's what they allowed, and so I maxed the permits out.
Got as much as you can.
Exactly.
So you really actually took that challenge. You beat business with another business.
That's correct. That's correct. So
Unreal.
and then my
you got to be creative. That's what this is all about. The businessman has got to be creative. You wait for it to happen, it's going to happen.
And then my stepdaughter, who worked, she has her, she went to UCLA and then Pepperdine, and she worked summers in our company, and then she got interested in the engineering company, and it was at a time where Jerry Brown would let you sell air emissions, carbon emissions, and so she started doing that. She said, I really feel funny. I feel like I'm doing a liberal thing, selling air to people. And I said, well, honey, if you're not doing it, they're going to have a liberal sell it to them. And it's best if you've got a conservative sell it to them, because at least they'll get an honest amount for what they're bargaining for. So anyway, she's been doing that now for the last 15, 20 years, and she's just knocking it out of the ballpark.
Wow, unreal. Yeah.
So
Hey,
yes, sir.
let me ask Ed a question. So what was it like when, was it the city that came to you and decided to change the name of your street to Laird?
Yes.
Was
Yes.
it really? Because I was there that day with Rick.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at you with your family and how proud you were. It was very impressive.
Very proud. Well, the mayor came to me and as a councilman, and they said, we're going to change the name of your street. And I said, that's going to be such an inconvenience for my neighbors. Let's not do that. And so for 6 months they dropped it, but they kept bringing it up. And I said, well, why don't we just do an honorary naming? And they said, fine. So they named it Laird Street, Laird Lane, I guess it is now. But I kind of joked at the time. I said, I wish they gave me the alley behind Main Street where the jail is, because that's 2 blocks long. And they only gave me a block out in industrial area. That's good. So
yeah, both of your shops are right there, correct?
Yes.
We were in front of the coating.
Our newest building, yeah.
Yeah, and it was across the street. Is that where the engineering is?
Well, no, they're both manufacturing plants. The
okay.
old one across the street is where I started 60 years ago.
Okay.
And the reason I keep that plant is because I have all my permits there and all my allowances from the EPA. And so if I ever moved from there, I would lose ability to manufacture.
So if you got there 60 years ago,
It was a bean field.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I grew up here. I know exactly. It was all bean fields.
Yes.
And except for when Douglas moved in, and they got the bid to build the Saturn V rocket fuel cell,
Yes.
which propelled the first rocket to the moon in 1969. That's why we moved here. My dad was an aeronautical engineer, and 5,000 people moved to Huntington Beach to work at the Douglas.
Thank God for
aircraft
your dad.
company. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really,
What grew Huntington?
Huntington Beach was just districts. But where you are, like I went to Marina High School when that was all bean fields behind Marina High School. And way out there, you saw a little bitty strip that was commercial properties. And that's where you were, right?
What kind of bean was it?
Wow.
Soybeans.
Soybeans.
Uh-huh.
But we also had a lot of corn.
Yeah.
There was a lot of corn
Yeah.
being grown and strawberries, but yeah, beans probably were the most food.
Yeah.
Or,
That's what they dug up to put my plant there, was a bean field.
really, yeah.
And John Lux developed that whole thing, and he was a great man, and he did Huntington a great service because bringing Douglas here, then McDonnell Douglas, and then
Yeah.
eventually Boeing. They were the backbone of our city.
They
And,
were.
at one time, they had 12,000 engineers working there, and most of them lived.
12,000 engineers, just engineers alone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Whoa.
Because they went on to build not just the Saturn V rocket fuel cell, but different defense items and missiles.
Right.
Yeah.
And submarines.
Yeah.
They
And
believe it or
subs.
not,
I
they
didn't
had
know
submarines.
that,
Yeah.
But they were the largest employer in Huntington Beach for many, many years. And then today, the city of Huntington Beach is the largest employer.
Yeah.
Boeing is, I don't think they'll ever leave. That they can't leave that facility for a number of reasons, but they've sold a lot of it off.
Yeah. In fact, so when they
property.
dedicated that property, just everything south of El Rancho, that's all for. I mean, it's supposed to be anything in the
Aerospace?
aerospace industry.
Yes.
All those little places.
Well, isn't that Amazon now, too, on that street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a point of contention. You know,
Yeah.
they said when they built that was their first project. They said that's going to be 40,000 square foot buildings that small businessmen can use, and they were going to build 5 of them all in the line there. And so they built them all, and Amazon took every bit of it, 500,000 square feet.
Yeah,
and it was supposed to be for small business. That was what they were selling it on.
I remember when Eric Peterson was mayor, he was the one who dedicated that property.
Yes.
And so so even though Amazon's here, the city's still a bigger employer.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I would think Amazon's got a lot of people over there.
Yeah, I think they do. I don't know how many, but they really aren't. They don't join the city. They don't belong to the Chamber of Commerce. I don't think any executive belong to a service organization in Huntington Beach.
We got to go over there and make some hell. Let's get them on. Let's get them involved.
They should.
Yeah, we got to get Rick. We got a mission now. We got to get. Everybody's wondering who I'm talking. I'm looking at the camera. Well, Rick Brown sitting in the audience. And everybody knows him. So yeah,
Yes, sir. They do.
Throw that out there. You know, so Ed, you do give to the community in a big way. You know, your time and energy and effort, and I know everyone appreciates that. You know, it's really hard to find, you know, guys like you that embrace Huntington Beach like Don has done. Don and his
thank
family.
you.
It is, but and one of
Yeah, but you know you can say all that about him, but he's so humble. I mean, you
Exactly.
can't really
Well,
get
thank
that
you.
out of him.
Thank you.
yeah.
Just so mellow about it.
Well, I love Huntington Beach, and I live and work here, and it's been a great run. I've had a great life in Huntington Beach.
Well, you've made it a better place for all of us.
Yeah.
And that means a lot to us. Don, you got any more questions or?
No, I'm glad that I got to meet Ed like I have in the last couple of years, and we both kind of see the stuff that we both do, and we're always appreciative of.
And thank you for what you do for the community.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Surfing Walk of Fame and everything. That's quite.
yeah,
Very impressive. You know, I told you earlier that, you know, Don's, you know, I kept thinking, who do I want as a co-host for this idea of HB Unplugged? And when I called Don, he didn't even bat an eye. You know, I'm in. Okay, let's do it. He didn't, I don't even think he knew what we were actually going to do. Just one day he shows up and he goes, wow, this is cool. Yeah, so
Well, you guys play off each other very well. I think it's a good combination.
Yeah, it's I mean, when it comes to you guys, so many years here. And yeah, I've been here a long time now, but I've been here twice. But, Don has, I don't know how he's been able to do, and I'm patting him on the back again, because he holds so much historic and history type information in his head, like a computer. I mean, the things that you store, Don, in your head are just amazing that you can throw that out, and the stories, the first time I really got a chance to meet Don, we were at the plaza, and he just starts telling me these stories about Huntington Beach. I'm like, wow, this guy's phenomenal. All this.
They're all true.
Yeah, he told me one day we're going to get in the bus and we're going to go cruise around Huntington Beach so we can point out all the gun club and all. I finally figured out where it was, where those two big palm trees are.
Sure.
To this day, I finally figured out where that was. So yeah, I mean, interesting story.
That was also Smoky Stables.
Yeah.
Right behind it. Yeah.
We talked about.
Well,
that.
I got involved in the Bolsa Chica Conservancy when it first formed, and I was on the board for 20 years there, and I was chairman for 8 when we were really struggling. But we put those 2 trailers on the lot there, the property, and when those 2 trailers were donated to us, one was 10 years older than the other. So the wiring wouldn't hook up, nothing would hook up.
Oh, so you couldn't join them together.
We eventually did.
Yeah.
We got it together and everything worked out. But I actually got involved in the Conservancy because I was involved in the Boy Scouts, and I wanted Eagle projects. And so there's a lot of Eagle projects in the wetlands that we did, trails and things like that. So that's my first experience. And now here, 40 years later, I'm still in both organizations.
Well, for our listeners, highlight what's the Conservancy, so people don't know. Some people don't know.
Okay,
because it's a fantastic. I mean,
it is.
Yeah.
It is. The Bolsa Chica, when the forefathers of Huntington Beach decided to save the Bolsa Chica, the Amigos were formed, and that was a political group that was not charitable.
Shirley Ditloff and,
Shirley
and
Ditloff.
Ralph Bauer.
Yep.
Wow.
And John Tillotson.
Yeah, and John Tillotson.
I mean, there were some great people in there.
There was.
And the Greens. And Vic Leipzig.
Kathy Green.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyways, they formed, that group was, the Amigos were first formed to save the wetlands. And when they were doing it along the way, a lot of organizations started popping up. And Harriet Weeder, who was the mayor of our city many years ago, she decided we better start an organization to just take care of the Bolsa Chica. And so that's when she started the Conservancy, and I was on the board with Tillotson. And everybody from the Bolsa Chica Amigos, they came over on the board because it was a charitable group that we could raise money and protect the wetlands. And that's what we did.
Not to interrupt you, but there was a fight going on.
Oh, yeah.
And what it was, there was a builder that wanted to turn the Bolsa Chica into a large harbor with hotels and shopping centers and all that. And Ditloff, Ralph Bauer, and the other people that he's talking about, they said, not on our watch. And literally, so I live right at the edge of the Bolsa Chica. I can see Catalina from my driveway.
Oh, very good.
And so they went around to everybody's house door by door and told them that, telling everybody, hey, if we don't win this fight, this builder's going to build and change everything that has to do. Like my street would go all the way to Coast Highway. Anyway, so they started this protest, and that's when the Indian tribe came to the protest, and that they told everybody that this is sacred ground. We have burial places right there
in Bolsa Chica.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the famous cogwheels, you could find them all over.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah. And so it was that battle. And then from what I've heard, this is when the Coastal Commission was formed to watch that fight, to legally see that, or make sure that the builder fighting against the citizens of Huntington Beach was a fair fight.
Yeah.
And that's what started the Coastal Commission.
You know, I wouldn't want to give the Coastal Commission much
not
credit for anything.
anymore.
I would
I
give all the
agree.
credit to Shirley and to
and
Ralph.
And Ralph.
And Ralph was a polymer chemist. Did you know that?
No.
He had his PhD. He was Dr. Ralph.
Unreal.
I've drawn a blank on his last name now.
Ralph Bauer.
Bauer.
Yeah. But he was actually in my industry when he worked for a living. and he worked for an oil company, and he actually developed the first polymer that was capable of bringing water chemistry and oil chemistry together.
Oh, interesting.
And he developed a link for a polymer that would accept both, so you could make a water-based product.
Water-based product.
And put less carbon out in the atmosphere. So Ralph Bauer developed that, and his professor that he worked for at UCLA won a Pulitzer Prize for that and shared it with Ralph. Ralph was his student techie that did that work for him. So Ralph had a lot of history that a lot of people don't know. He was really a great man, as was Shirley Detloff. They were fighters, and I would attribute saving of the Bolsa Chica to those two individuals. I think they did a great job.
Fantastic. Well, what a great show. I mean, what's really cool is the education. Getting to know Huntington Beach, little bits at a time. Every time we do an episode, some new guest brings great information. I've learned a lot today. I'm sure all listeners, appreciate the education you brought to us. Especially, I think both of the things that Rick Brown sent me, Ed, sometimes you don't realize the impact that you have on people's lives when you speak. I'm talking about anybody when they speak.
Well, thank you.
I did a quote, and it's a Mel Craig quote. It's when you see, is there vision? When you hear, do you listen? And when you speak, is there wisdom? I came up with that quote, and it's because so many people don't realize the impact you have. Today, you need to know how much of an impact you had on my life, because when I got a chance to see you speak and talk, it really resonated with me. And those are memories that get formed that never go away. That's the impact you had on me.
Thank you, Mel. I appreciate that.
Well, it's the truth, and that's why having you on as a guest on our show, you're having that same impact right now. And gosh knows how many thousands of people listen to our show and coming on more in droves to listen to our episodes. And it really, that's an impact that we're trying to accomplish.
Well, thank you.
Don and I talked
I
about
think you are. I think you are.
Yeah.
A lot of times I belong to several boards, and when I go in there and I say, this is the way we used to do it, I can see all the young guys just shutting off. They don't want to hear how we did it years ago, but I appreciate you listening to.
And like I said, we're looking for sponsors.
Okay.
Throw that out of you.
Okay.
So what are you saying? You go ahead, Rick. What are you saying?
I always want to mention Ed has been a mentor of some people that really, really impacted our city.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Don. Highlight on that.
Well, I believe Rick's talking about Kevin Elliott, who started Code 4 and got the air show going. And it was Ed driving force behind getting Kevin involved in the community and getting started. And when he took over the air show, I know it was Ed that gave him the little push to say, hey, we need to do this.
Well, I will tell you, Kevin Elliott's like a son to me. He's that close. We talk on the phone probably every other night. And when the council meetings are going, we talk every night.
Every hour.
Yeah. But Kevin Elliott is there's some bright stars that we have in Huntington Beach.
I agree. Kevin
that
is
are
the
young
man.
people that are going to be here a long time. He's building a home down in the wetlands that is going to be second to none. So he's a permanent resident. He's going to be a leader here. And he's a star.
Boy, he already is.
Yeah, he grew up here. His mom
Was a school
was a
teacher.
teacher at Circleview. I don't know if she's still there.
I think she's retired.
Is she?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is she-
But he's starting a family here, and he's got 2 kids. He named his first son Jet. So, I mean, he's really into
Yeah. Perfect.
yeah. So
I did get a chance to talk to him at another event, and I went up to him and said, "Hey, Don and I are doing this podcast." He goes, "I heard, yeah, I heard." And I said, "We want to get you on the show." He said, "Just let me know when." So I was like, and I'd
well,
love to-
he will be a real star.
Oh yeah. Well, you are too.
And he's the future of Huntington Beach, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I totally agree.
Wow, unreal. We'll have to get him put in a good word for us. We want him here. Yeah,
I will.
I'd love to have him. Well, Ed, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great show, great entertainment,
Appreciate
great
it very much.
education. Yeah. Good family.
Yes.
Good family all
Yes, sir.
together. I'm Mel Craig,
And I'm Don Ramsey.
and thank you for joining us for another episode of HB Unplugged with our special guest, Ed Laird.
Thank you.